On the morning of September 11, 2001, an unimaginable nightmare unfolded that would forever alter the course of history and leave scars on our collective soul. At exactly 8:46 a.m., a commercial airliner suddenly slammed into the North Tower of New York's World Trade Center, shattering the calm of a bustling metropolis and sending shockwaves of terror not only through the city but around the world. And barely 17 minutes later, another plane violently struck the South Tower, igniting a chain reaction of devastation. This culminated 30 minutes after the first impact, with a third aircraft deliberately crashing into the Pentagon. Meanwhile, a fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, originally destined to hit the U.S. Capitol, became the stage for one of the most extraordinary acts of defiance in modern history. Its passengers, in a desperate bid for survival, rose up against their hijackers and forced the aircraft to plummet while still 100 kilometers from its intended target. This act, despite claiming every life on board, likely prevented an even greater catastrophe. This meticulously coordinated operation was executed by 19 terrorists, all confirmed members of Al-Qaeda, with 15 originating from Saudi Arabia, 2 from the United Arab Emirates, 1 from Egypt, and 1 from Lebanon. It was masterminded by Osama bin Laden, whose seething anger over America's long-standing military presence in Saudi Arabia following the Gulf War, perceived as a desecration of Islam's holiest sites in Mecca and Medina, fueled his desire to launch a jihad intended to rally Muslims worldwide against what he viewed as an affront to their faith. At the heart of this plot was Mohammed Atta, the principal hijacker and pilot of Flight 11. His transformation from a well-educated Egyptian studying in Germany into a fervent extremist epitomized the turbulent clash between Western modernity and rising radical ideology. He, along with his fellow hijackers, who managed to infiltrate the United States under the guise of students, tourists, and business travelers, and later received rigorous flight training at reputable aviation schools, even honing their skills using advanced simulation software that meticulously recreated American airports and landmarks, ensured that all 4 hijacked airliners took off within a narrow half-hour window to maximize the impact of their coordinated strikes. While the first 2 flights struck the Twin Towers with devastating effect, the story of Flight 93 stands out as a poignant testament to human courage. Its scheduled 8:01 a.m. departure was delayed by a critical 40 minutes, inadvertently giving its passengers a precious window to learn of the unfolding horror. Once they realized that their aircraft was being commandeered with the intent of crashing into a symbol of American power, these ordinary individuals, driven by an indomitable will to survive, launched a spontaneous, desperate uprising in the cockpit. Using items like the in-flight service card as weapons, and rallying together to seize control from the hijackers, they forced the plane into a steep, uncontrolled descent that ended in a tragic crash. All of this, though it resulted in the loss of every soul on board, likely saved countless lives by preventing the plane from reaching its intended target. Further investigations later revealed that the terrorists had exploited significant vulnerabilities in aviation security at the time. Cockpit doors were not fortified and, in many cases, were left unlocked or could be easily opened with a crew member's key, which allowed the hijackers to breach the aircraft's controls with relative ease. It was also discovered that during their flight training, the hijackers had practiced using sophisticated flight simulators that reproduced real-world conditions so accurately that following the attacks, companies like Microsoft were forced to remove digital models of the Twin Towers from their simulation software to avoid triggering painful memories. Moreover, computer investigations uncovered that one trainee, Zacharias Moussaoui, whose obsessive focus on mastering in-flight maneuvers, coupled with his apparent disinterest in the crucial phases of takeoff and landing, had once raised suspicions among flight instructors and even caught the attention of the FBI, ultimately leading to his denial of entry into the United States and his subsequent replacement by Zayed Jalala, a pilot whose comparatively poorer performance may have contributed to critical delays during the hijacking of Flight 93, inadvertently providing its passengers with the vital time needed to orchestrate their final stand. As the events of that fateful morning unfolded amid widespread chaos and a disjointed command structure within the U.S. government, where early reports of hijacked aircraft were met with disbelief and delays in scrambling fighter jets only exacerbated the crisis, the full magnitude of the coordinated attacks became painfully clear. This culminated in the collapse of the Twin Towers, the partial destruction of the Pentagon, and a death toll of nearly 3,000 innocent lives, including 343 firefighters, 37 police officers, and hundreds of civilians. A tragedy that not only exposed critical security lapses, but also ignited a global reassessment of counterterrorism measures. Subsequent investigations, including the exhaustive 9/11 Commission report, painstakingly reconstructed the timeline and logistical details of the attacks, revealing that the terrorists had initially targeted additional symbols of American power, such as nuclear power plants and military installations like aircraft carriers. But operational challenges forced them to concentrate on the most iconic landmarks: the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the Capitol. Internal communications among the conspirators indicated that, had all their original plans been executed without interruption, the consequences for the United States might have been even more catastrophic. The chaos on that tragic day also underscored the failures of leadership and coordination at the highest levels of government, with delayed decisions and misinterpretations of early intelligence contributing to a response that many later criticized as both disorganized and insufficient, a legacy that has since spurred extensive reforms in national security and emergency response protocols. Yet amid the horror and overwhelming loss, the heroic actions of the passengers aboard Flight 93 emerge as a beacon of defiance, an extraordinary testament to the resilience and courage of ordinary people who, when faced with the unthinkable, chose to risk everything to protect their fellow citizens. A sacrifice that, while it cost them their lives, altered the course of history by preventing an even greater tragedy, and which continues to inspire and remind us that in moments of crisis, the human spirit can rise above terror and despair. As we reflect on the profound impact of the 9/11 attacks, we are compelled to examine not only the intricate details of a meticulously planned terrorist operation, but also the broader implications for global security, the vulnerabilities of modern systems, and the enduring power of individual bravery in the face of overwhelming adversity. A legacy that challenges us to remember the lessons of that fateful day, to honor the sacrifices made, and to strive for a future in which such tragedies are never repeated, ensuring that the memory of those lost remains a solemn reminder of both the fragility of our world and the indomitable strength of the human spirit. The events of September 11, 2001, sent shockwaves around the globe, reshaping the world in ways that continue to reverberate today. In the immediate aftermath, nations worldwide grappled with the stark realization that terrorism was a pervasive threat that could strike anywhere, at any time. This new reality prompted a seismic shift in global security measures, as governments implemented stringent policies to safeguard their citizens and infrastructure against future attacks. Airport security was revolutionized, with enhanced screening processes and the establishment of agencies like the Transportation Security Administration in the United States. International cooperation increased, leading to the formation of alliances and information-sharing networks aimed at thwarting terrorist activities before they could manifest. The global fight against terrorism became a unifying cause, prompting military interventions, intelligence operations, and legislative changes designed to disrupt terrorist networks and prevent further atrocities.